You think she's telling you everything. You think the woman sitting across from you over dinner, the one who looks into your eyes and speaks about vulnerability and honesty, is giving you the complete story of who she is and where she's been. You're wrong. She's not lying to you. She's telling you a carefully edited version of the truth, a sanitized narrative where she's always the victim, never the villain, where her past is something that happened to her, not something she participated in creating, where every broken relationship was his fault, every ended friendship was their betrayal, every burned bridge was lit by someone else's match. You want to believe her because the alternative is admitting you don't know the person you're falling in love with. You want to trust her because questioning her story means questioning your ability to read people, to choose partners, to protect yourself from deception disguised as intimacy. But somewhere deep in your chest, something doesn't sit right. The details don't align. The timeline has gaps. The story changes slightly each time she tells it, and you start to notice the three phrases she uses, like verbal shields, deflecting your questions and redirecting your attention away from the shadows she's learned to keep hidden. These are the three things she always says when she's hiding her true, dark past. The first thing she says is, "That's not who I am anymore." She says it with the kind of conviction that's meant to end the conversation before it begins. She says it like transformation is a light switch you flip rather than a slow reconstruction of character that takes years to prove. She says it like changing who you are is as simple as deciding who you used to be no longer counts. But what she's really saying is, don't look too closely at who I was, because you might recognize parts of her in who I am today. What she's really saying is, I've learned to hide the parts of myself that destroyed other people, but I haven't learned to heal them. What she's really saying is, I'm hoping you'll love the performance I've perfected rather than the person I've always been underneath it. When she says, that's not who I am anymore, she's asking you to accept that people can completely reinvent themselves without doing the work of understanding why they became who they were in the first place. She's asking you to believe that the woman who manipulated her way through previous relationships, who cheated and lied and played victim while orchestrating chaos, has somehow become a different person through the simple passage of time. She wants you to believe that the woman who broke men by loving them like weapons has learned to love without warfare. That the woman who collected hearts like trophies has suddenly developed empathy for the people she conquered. That the woman who used her beauty and sexuality as tools of manipulation has discovered the value of genuine connection. But what she won't tell you is how she perfected the art of emotional terrorism, how she learned to make men feel like they were losing their minds by gaslighting them about conversations that never happened and promises she never made, how she became fluent in the language of manufactured jealousy, bringing other men around just close enough to make her boyfriend feel threatened, but never close enough to be called cheating. She won't tell you about the married man whose family she helped destroy, because she convinced herself that his wife didn't understand him the way she did. She won't tell you about the best friend whose boyfriend she seduced during a moment of vulnerability, then comforted her through the breakup while pretending to be shocked by his betrayal. She won't tell you about the string of men she left emotionally destroyed, convinced they were crazy for suspecting her of things she was absolutely doing. Men who started relationships confident and secure and ended them questioning their own sanity, their own worth, their own ability to read reality. But transformation requires facing what you're transforming from. And she's never done that work. She's simply learned better strategies for hiding who she's always been. She's learned to be more subtle with her manipulations, more sophisticated with her deceptions, more careful about leaving evidence of her true nature. The woman who says, "That's not who I am anymore," is the same woman who's already calculating which of your insecurities she can exploit if you become inconvenient. She's the same woman who's cataloging your weaknesses while you're sharing your vulnerabilities. She's the same woman who's mentally rehearsing the victim story she'll tell about you if this relationship doesn't serve her purposes. The second thing she says is, "You don't understand what I've been through." She says it whenever you ask questions that get too close to the truth. She says it like suffering is a certificate of innocence, like being hurt by someone justifies hurting someone else. She says it like pain is a permanent excuse for inflicting pain. But what she's really saying is, my wounds give me permission to wound you. What she's really saying is, I've learned to weaponize my victim status to avoid accountability for my perpetrator behaviors. What she's really saying is, I'm hoping your empathy for my pain will blind you to the pain I've caused others. When she says, you don't understand what I've been through, she's not inviting you to understand her better. She's creating a wall of untouchable suffering that shields her from having to explain her choices. She's making her past pain more important than your present peace. She's using her history of being hurt as justification for her history of hurting others. She wants you to believe that the men who left her were all cruel, and the women who distanced themselves were all jealous, and the friends who disappeared were all fake. She wants you to believe that she's a magnet for toxic people rather than someone who brings out the toxicity in others. She wants you to believe that her past is a series of things that happened to her rather than a series of consequences for things she did. But here's what she won't tell you. She was the other woman who broke up marriages while telling herself the wives didn't understand their husbands. She was the friend who shared secrets as currency and created drama as entertainment. She was the girlfriend who made every man feel like he was walking on eggshells while convincing him that her volatility was passion and her cruelty was honesty. She was the woman who turned every social gathering into a stage for her performance, flirting with taken men just enough to create tension, then playing innocent when confrontations arose. She was the woman who collected male attention like a drug, needing constant validation from multiple sources, while convincing each source they were the only one who mattered. She was the woman who specialized in triangulation, always keeping other options visible, just close enough to make her current partner feel replaceable, but never close enough to be called unfaithful. She was the master of emotional terrorism, creating chaos and then offering herself as the solution to the problems she created. She was the woman who left a trail of broken people behind her while collecting stories about how broken she was by them. She was the villain in dozens of other people's stories while casting herself as the victim in her own. And every time someone tried to hold her accountable, she pulled out her catalog of past hurts like a shield. Every time someone called her on her behavior, she redirected the conversation to her childhood, her ex who cheated, her father who left, her mother who was critical. Every wound became a weapon. Every scar became a justification. The woman who says, you don't understand what I've been through, has learned that men will tolerate almost any behavior if you can make them feel sorry for you. She's learned that sympathy is a more powerful tool than honesty. She's learned that playing victim is more effective than taking responsibility. The third thing she says is, none of that matters now because I'm only yours. She says it with the kind of finality that's meant to sound romantic but feels more like a negotiation. She says it like exclusivity erases history, like commitment cancels out character. She says it like promising to be faithful to you somehow absolves her of the faithlessness she showed everyone else. But what she's really saying is, I'm hoping that claiming you as my future will make you stop examining my past. What she's really saying is, I've learned that men will accept almost anything if you make them feel chosen. What she's really saying is, I'm using your ego to bypass your intuition. When she says, none of that matters now because I'm only yours, she's not making a promise about the future. She's making a demand about the present. She's demanding that you stop asking questions that make her uncomfortable. She's demanding that you accept the edited version of her story. She's demanding that you choose love over logic, hope over evidence, fantasy over truth. She wants you to believe that love transforms people rather than reveals them. She wants you to believe that her devotion to you proves her capacity for devotion rather than her capacity for performance. She wants you to believe that being chosen by her is more valuable than understanding who's doing the choosing. But what she won't tell you is that she said the same thing to the last man, and the one before that, and the one before him. She won't tell you that I'm only yours is a temporary contract that expires the moment you stop serving her emotional needs or someone more interesting becomes available. She won't tell you that even while she's promising exclusivity, she's maintaining emotional connections with multiple men just as friends. She won't tell you that she's already identified which of your friends finds her attractive, which of your colleagues shows her attention, which of your family members she can charm if she needs to create division. She won't tell you that her phone is a museum of conversations with men who think they're the only one getting those particular messages, that her social media is carefully curated to send different signals to different audiences, that she's learned to compartmentalize her relationships so effectively that each person believes they have access to a part of her that no one else sees. The woman who says, none of that matters now because I'm only yours, is the same woman who's already planning her exit strategy if you disappoint her. She's the same woman who's keeping her options warm while convincing you that you're her only option. She's the same woman who will make you feel grateful for her fidelity while she's actively managing a roster of emotional alternatives. But here's what none of these phrases can hide. The woman who cheated in every relationship doesn't suddenly develop integrity because she meets the right person. The woman who manipulated and lied and played victim doesn't suddenly become authentic because she finds someone who makes her want to be better. The woman who used men as emotional scratching posts doesn't suddenly develop empathy because she decides she's in love. Character doesn't change through inspiration. It changes through transformation. And transformation requires acknowledging what needs to be transformed. She's not hiding her past because she's ashamed of it. She's hiding it because she knows it predicts her future. She's not protecting you from the truth about who she was. She's protecting herself from the accountability that comes with admitting who she still is. The patterns are already there if you know how to look for them. The way she talks about every ex, like they were mentally unstable. The way she has no long-term female friendships because women are too much drama. The way she's somehow always the victim in every story she tells. Despite being the common denominator in every conflict, the way she love bombs you with intensity and affection until you're addicted to her attention, then withdraws just enough to keep you chasing. The way she creates problems so she can be the solution, manufactures crises so she can be the comfort, starts fights so she can make up dramatically. The way she tests your boundaries by pushing just a little too far, then apologizes with just enough sincerity to make you doubt your own reaction. The way she makes you feel like you're being paranoid for trusting your instincts, like you're being controlling for asking reasonable questions, like you're being insecure for noticing obvious red flags. The woman who says, "That's not who I am anymore," is the same woman who will blame you for her behavior when the mask slips. The woman who says, "You don't understand what I've been through," is the same woman who will use your love as permission to hurt you. The woman who says, "None of that matters now because I'm only yours," is the same woman who will make you feel grateful for crumbs of affection while she feeds other people full meals of attention. You think you're dating the woman she's become. You're actually dating the woman she's always been, wearing the costume of the woman she knows you want to love. Every time she uses one of these phrases, she's not sharing herself with you. She's selling herself to you. She's not being vulnerable. She's being strategic. She's not loving you. She's recruiting you as an accomplice in the fantasy that people can reinvent themselves without doing the work of understanding themselves. But you already know this, don't you? You know it in the way your stomach drops when she deflects certain questions. You know it in the way her stories don't quite add up. You know it in the way she talks about everyone in her past like they were the problem while positioning herself as the perpetual victim of other people's dysfunction. You know it in the way she makes you feel like you're being paranoid for trusting your instincts, like you're being judgmental for wanting the complete truth, like you're being controlling for asking questions about the inconsistencies in her narrative. The past doesn't stay in the past. It lives in the present through the patterns we've never interrupted, the wounds we've never healed, the lessons we've never learned. It lives in the way she loves you when you're useful and punishes you when you're not. It lives in the way she creates chaos and then comforts you through the crisis she created. It lives in the way she makes you feel chosen while keeping her options open. Her dark past isn't something she had. It's something she is. And no amount of careful editing can change that truth. The woman who hides her past is the same woman who's already planning how to hide her present from the next person who asks too many questions. You weren't supposed to see through the performance, but now that you have, you can't unsee what you've recognized.